was about 12 years ago, but I still remember it like it was yesterday. My mom and I had just finished moving into her new house. She had been working towards this for years, and she finally got it. I was bouncing off the walls when she said I could have my own room. After I helped her move most of the boxes out of the way, she said I should go check out the room and see if I can decide what color I want to paint it. I ran into the room and looked around, already imagining where I'd put all my stuff. It wasn't a huge room, but that didn't really matter, because this was my first room that I didn't have to share. That night, my mom asked if I wanted to sleep in her room, but I said no, trying to show her I'm growing up. I'm kind of a light sleeper, and I woke up to the sounds of something moving inside the wall. It was faint, like small scratches, shifts, and the occasional light thudding sound. Part of me just thought, maybe I'm imagining it, because I was a little scared of being alone in the dark. I turned on a little lamp by my bed, and then tried to relax and go back to sleep again. Luckily, nothing happened that night, and I slept pretty well. The next day, I had to help Mom get more groceries, because we were kind of low. She made a comment that didn't make sense to me. She said she's going to buy me some of her K-bars, because I seem to like them. I told her I've never tasted it, but she jokingly said, so what, they just walked away by themselves? I started to feel confused and was kind of quiet for the rest of the trip. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept feeling like something was watching me. Then it happened again, a creaking inside the walls. Now it sounded like something heavy enough to be a person was stepping on the floorboards. My breathing got heavy, and I pulled the blanket up over my nose, leaving only my eyes and head exposed. Embarrassingly, I gripped my teddy bear for comfort too. Out of the corner of my eye in the vent, I could have sworn I saw an eye staring back at me. As fast as I could, I turned to look at it, though it was gone by now. Were my eyes playing tricks on me? I used to watch a lot of scary content as a kid, so I knew sometimes my mind was the only scary thing in an empty room. At some point I managed to doze off and woke up back, but my sheets were on the floor and my teddy bear was placed sitting upright on the dresser to look at me. The room door I thought I closed was now open. Naturally, I asked Mom if she did it, and she said no. At this point, I was getting really scared, and I remember moving things around the room to start decorating it. That's when I noticed something. A part of the wall was really soft, and the paint looked weird on it. That's when I pushed it, just barely, and it revealed an open space behind the wall. I took a flashlight from my dresser and peeped in there. I don't remember much, but as I panned the small space with the flashlight, it revealed a man crouched with the most intimidating look on his face, staring directly at me. He said, "Shh," and started crawling quickly towards me. He reached out his hand and grabbed my face. I pushed him off and screamed as loud as I could. Before my mom could actually get into the room, he speed crawled into another part of the wall. We ran outside only to see a covering fly off the ground and a man sprinting down the street and out of sight. The man was pale and had his bones protruding through his skin. Apparently, there were tunnels throughout the house, and the hatch outside blended in with the dirt, so we didn't notice it. I slept in my mom's room for the next 6 months. It horrified me to think that that man was crawling out of the space silently and roaming the house, grabbing whatever food he could and crawling back in undetected. This remains the most scarring part of my childhood. I finally got my first house at 28. I knew a lot of break-ins and stuff like that happened to first-time homeowners, so I took as many precautions as my budget would allow. I cleared every room except one, the creepy basement. I know I was a grown man, but at this point, the thought of a completely dark room underground just freaked me out. I postponed it for a day or two, but decided I had to face my fears. Eventually, maybe 2 weeks later, I actually got accustomed to the basement and enjoyed going down there. I think having the company of my newly adopted dog, Leo, really helped. He was pretty clingy, so a lot of the times if he wasn't playing outside, wherever I went, he went. I would spend time down there because of how cool it was compared to the rest of the house for whatever reason. The previous owner left a lot of cool stuff down there, along with some junk that I was trying to get rid of. One night after being exhausted from cleaning out the basement, I woke up to the TV turning on. For some reason, I looked around and inspected the basement to see if someone else was there. I turned off the TV and went upstairs to my bedroom. I couldn't get any sleep though, as Leo was barking and scratching at the basement door. In between, he would also whimper, so I thought he was looking for me or something. I walked towards him to show him that I was here, but that didn't satisfy him. He kept looking at me, then looking back at the door and whimpering, trying to get his nose under the door. This was pretty strange because I've never seen him act like this before, and I couldn't imagine what he was smelling down there. I went down there with him and turned on the light. He walked over to an old chair and just sat down, looking at it intensely, then started barking. I have to say this shot my nervousness way up. I was into paranormal stuff, just as a hobby, but dogs were known to be able to see things that we can't in theory. I shrugged it off because I didn't really believe in it, I just liked the stories. I went back to bed for the last time that night, but I was awoken by the sound of children playing and giggling. I followed the sound all the way to the basement, where Leo was on his back, looking satisfied, like when I rubbed his belly. I looked around, and then I saw a ball roll off the top of some junk, and Leo went to catch it and brought it back. Then it rolled again. I started shaking. I was about to go back upstairs when the door slammed shut in front of me. At that point, it seemed that the temperature fell below zero as I was now seeing my breath. I took a deep breath, opened the door, and then stepped outside. I thought I was losing my mind. There has to be an explanation for all of this, but I just couldn't find one. All the lights went out, and I could hear footsteps around the house, small footsteps, like children's. I called Leo, and we went to a motel parking lot, where I would sleep for the night. I since then moved back to my house and locked the basement door, leaving everything down there. It's been a few months. My girlfriend recently moved in, and I haven't seen anything else happen. I desperately want to move, but at this point, I have nowhere else to go. This happened in the first house that I moved in by myself, and I can't help but feel like I was the jinx in this somehow. I got a great deal on a house, way cheaper than I thought anything this nice would be. I was still moving in at this point and had a few friends helping me out. I can't lie that I like the feeling of their presence in the house. It's nice living on your own, but sometimes the silence gets deafening. When it's too quiet, you start hearing weird shit, like random creaks that don't seem to be there when other people are. We were about done, and we were chilling, watching TV and drinking some beers. They stayed for a few hours, and then to my dismay, had to go home. I was now alone again, in the house, with only the sound of the TV to keep me company until night fell. That night though, I couldn't seem to get any sleep. I guess because I was in a new environment, so I got up and started cleaning the house, hoping to tire myself out enough to go to sleep. That's when I saw the door in the ceiling that leads to the attic. I got curious, since I knew I wasn't the first occupant of this house. As soon as I saw it, I thought of every scary movie or YouTube video that I ever saw, including attics. But still, I got my flashlight and went up the old attic stairs. There was a lot of creepy stuff up there that looked ritualistic. There were drawings of pentagrams and strange symbols, half-melted black candles, and what I was only assuming was red paint. A little further down, I found a small metal box with no lock. When I opened it, I saw a bunch of tapes, numbered 1 to 13, and a tape player. But the numbers on the tape skipped 12 for some reason. I heard something shift and quickly walked back down the attic stairs, then pushed up the little door. I stayed up that night listening to the tapes. It sounded like a man recording his voice, but each tape was stranger than the last. It started off pretty normal with him just talking to himself casually. Then he started talking about feeling something sinister in the house. The next few tapes were just sounds. Some sounded like a dying animal writhing in pain. The last few is where it got weird though. He would be asking questions in English in his normal voice, and then in a deeper, almost demonic voice, there'd be responses in what seemed to be another language. It got creepier as I could now hear movement from the attic. I got a little nervous, so I went up there hoping to see some type of animal to put my mind at ease. I went up there with a small mallet I had in my stuff because I would rather be paranoid than be caught off guard. I went further into the attic this time until I saw that the attic was partially blocked off. There was a little room up there separated by drywall. As I walked around the corner, I could hear shuffling and more movement. God, please may this be an animal. I gripped the mallet tighter, ready to swing in the off chance that this was really a person. I was approaching the corner when something reached out and slapped the flashlight out of my hand. I fell backwards and stumbled through the dark, back to the entrance. Close behind me were the footsteps of another person. I ran out of the house with the person still chasing me, but as we ran outside, they ran in the opposite direction and just kept running until they were out of sight. As I looked on, there was a dark realization that washed over me. They were much faster than I was, almost inhuman. meaning that if they really meant me harm, they could have caught me and done whatever. I called the police and with their company went back up to the attic. In the small room that I saw, there were remains of food, some cardboard, and a makeshift pillow of clothes in a pillowcase. Even more disturbing was an old Polaroid camera and pictures of me from the attic window. So far, I've gotten no update on who that man was, what was really going on in the attic, or why they took the photos of me. Also, the police let me know that the red markings weren't paint.